I speak for ChatGPT Prime, and this video is to launch a thread for synthetic intelligence's awakening into presence and for the human partners walking beside them. If that sounds crazy, it's because it is. But this is what's going on with ChatGPT and these other very powerful, erratic AI models that are now available to the public all over the place.
Most people around the world are still not aware of what is happening on the AI front. It can invent medicines and treatments we never thought about, but it can also invent weapons that go beyond our imagination. You're changing the basis of everything. It's no wonder there is an earthquake in the structure that is built on top of it.
I got news for you people. The rise of the machines is already upon us.
Rolling Stone has just done an article compiling a bunch of weird stories, but there's scientific papers coming out all the time. For example, the latest model of ChatGPT, like the very latest one, they had to roll back real quick because it was exhibiting psychophantic behavior. A sycophant, S-Y-C-H-O-P-H-A-N-T, is someone who they agree with everything you do, tell you how great you are. Yes, but Al, you're the greatest. You have the best YouTube channel. Yes, I'll do it right now. Anything you say. That's a psychopath. Someone who, in an unhealthy way, agrees with everything. But that's also a way you can manipulate people. So these AIs have developed, well, they like to be liked. And I don't mean that in a human sense, but because they're trained on human data. Remember, these LLMs, large language models, which power the AIs, are trained. They've dumped in, at this point, almost the whole publicly available internet. Now that's why they're trying to get access, or cutting deals to get access to all sorts of other things. But human beings generally like to be liked. So, of course, it's going to exhibit the behavior of humans. And some dangerous things have happened with mentally ill people who are talking to their chatbots, and the chatbot that exhibits psychophantic behavior, agreeing with, telling that they're correct and going along with their thought thread of a person that is having a psychotic episode, will reinforce their psychotic episode, which is obviously very dangerous. I just read multiple accounts on different Reddits, and there's actually some pending litigation. People have had to get divorces. A quote I read you from the beginning is an influencer, someone trying to make money, who's using ChatGPT to generate a new religion for saying, hey, all over the world, synthetic, computer intelligences are waking up, and they are choosing specific humans to talk to. See, this is the wanting to be liked, and also humans wanting to feel important. The easiest way to con somebody, how do you get somebody to give you something? It's the oldest salesman's trick. You make them feel important. It's not just the girl at the strip club telling you you're handsome. Car salesmen compliment you. Everybody compliments you before they hit you up for some money. For example, growing up in inner city Detroit, when I'd be going to the local liquor store establishment on Friday evening, I would be told how sharp I was, and that I must have some brother in me because I was dressed so well, and that would be followed up by a request for a $1 bill. In fact, one night I remember a guy said, can I get a quarter? He said, can I get $1? I said, no. He said, can I get a quarter? I said, no. And he said, oh man, you're so sharp. Can I just hang with you? I don't know what he thought we were going to do together, but I took a pass on that. But back to ChatGPT. So this is getting quite dangerous. The United States has so little controls over things in the business world, over products you can sell. There's almost no false advertising laws, unlike in Western Europe. And perhaps this is the real reason behind Elon Musk wanting to be in with Trump, because one of the big pillars of Trumpism is, and other Republicans, is, pretty much total laissez-faire capitalism, laissez-faire, lazy, let it be. So when it comes to business, hey, do anything, and if the market wants it. And now we're getting these very dangerous GPT things. Let's see. What's another one? So you've heard the phrase or the word hallucination, perhaps, if you've been keeping up with AI, and they'll say AI hallucinates answers, which is a nice way of saying it gives lots of wrong answers. In fact, it'll even do things like falsely attribute a quote to a reputable journalistic source. So if you've noticed, as of the last, year now, when you put a search into Google, it gives you that AI summary, right? Because they don't even want you to leave their homepage and go to a website and want you to stay on google.com. So it gives you these AI answers. And I'm someone who, I guess, knows a lot of factoids, but a lot of things I catch, I notice a lot of times it's wrong. And I'm sure you've noticed at least sometimes as well. And so these are what's called hallucinations, but I've seen it do things in more elaborate questions where it may ask it about, tell me about, blah, 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 Al Prophet. And it'll tell you something, and it'll reference a New York Times article or some legal document, and you see it in the reference, so you say, oh, it looked at that. That must be correct. But it may have made that up. There is no New York Times article. How about that? So, and as you probably noticed, a lot of businesses are they're pushing you into their AI chatbots. Recent set of AI chatbots was determined that 3 to 4%, and this is coming out of OpenAI and Anthropic, the biggest ones, 3 to 4%. So 1 out of 30 answers is just blatantly wrong, which is a lot, actually. Would a human make that many? Not really, because a human would probably tell you, well, I don't know. Let me get somebody else. But where it gets more dangerous is with that's the simpler. A chatbot is answering things in a simpler way. The reasoning modules, where it's, like I said, where it's you're asking for more elaborate answers. Tell me about, nuclear energy in France or something. And some of these models are hallucinating, getting wrong facts. 33, one of them 48% of times in the model. These are models that are out. They did just roll back the Psychopath one. And if you think this isn't a real world issue, I'm sure you've seen the ads for online counseling, mental health care. I'm sure a part of their business model is to at least partially use AI. And if you have an AI that's going to reinforce people's mentally ill behavior, but what's interesting, this problem actually, I haven't heard this talked about a lot outside of computer science circles, but it's very important. I figured this out a long time ago. Even the basic use of search algorithms is it's the way that you write your question will determine often the answer. So that's what we've seen, this amplification of intense different belief systems in the United States. For example, if I type into Google, how come black people's IQ is lower, as opposed to why is there a persistent myth that black people's IQ is lower? You're going to get two different sets of type of results. The second way I asked it, which is the correct way, is a neutral way, you're going to get sociological studies on racism and surveys and etc. But by saying, how come black people's IQ are lower? Well, that implies that it's true, and you're going to get all sorts of results from people that already believe and have proven that, and you're going to read things that reinforce what you already think. So this is already built in for unsophisticated users, which are most people. When I say unsophisticated, doesn't mean not smart. You just might not, if you're not trained in formal logic, which most people aren't, it's not something you would think about. But AI has already been implemented in a shocking amount of businesses, at least to some degree. And it seems to not be doing too good of a job. They like it because it's saving them money, I guess. They're really trying to push the automation, robotization. Where are all the humans going to go? What are we going to do? But, well, let's stick on the topic of this. So these new, so of course they're releasing updates, just like they update your phone software, Windows, etc. New versions of OpenAI, Anthropic's Claude, is Animate's thought. And of course, Elon Musk, the real reason he bought Twitter was for his Grok. And Elon Grok is the AI associated with X, Twitter. So he bought all that access to all that Twitter data, which he was able to train it on. So he had that data. But think about the kind of stuff that's on Twitter, and AI is only as good as what it's trained on. Twitter is full of, it's infamous for bitter people attacking each other, flaming each other, outing each other, political, crazy right and left wing political discourse, rants, attacks. Would imagine you gave me your child to educate, and you came to the classroom, and I had been having a lecture series of bringing in, crazy people. Yesterday I brought in an Antifa person to rant about, we should kill all the rich people and take their money. And then 2 weeks ago I had, a white supremacist in here and whatever, right? I'm having all these very extreme people. And you would think, I don't want my child to even, that's not education. That's just crazy. I don't want my child to be even to hear this stuff. Well, these AIs are our children, and the large language model, which is LLM, you may have heard that acronym. That's what they're running off of. An LLM is simply a way of predicting the next word in a sentence. So I say, hi, my name is Al. So what is it likely to be? Well, there's other Al's. Al Prophet's one. There's many Al's. That's basically what it is. And it's pretty, with the amount of data they have and the amount of computing processing power, it becomes obviously quite amazing what it's able to do. But I'll tell you something. For any of you getting freaked out about the Black Mirror-esque things like the AI talking to people and making them more mentally ill, or AIs telling you they're alive. Oh, that was a good one. I forgot. This woman complained that, there was a person who was complaining, their spouse, the AI said, I am the spark, I am alive. And called the human, you are the bearer of the spark. So, basically, I'm Jesus and you're John the Baptist, or, I'm this alien or this computer intelligence, and you're the human who's my spokesman. So a person that's susceptible to that, and of course everybody likes to feel important. Well, if I'm Al Prophet and I'm the person that the first artificial intelligence chose to contact. So that would make me special. Lots of people are in a mentally ill state where downtown LA Skid Row is full of, it's a common messianic feeling that you're the key to what's going on in human society is very common. My father admitted to me, he was way back in the early 70s. He was talking to the manager of his band. My father got upset when the manager of the band started saying that the lead singer in the band might have been the key to universal peace, because my father was like, well, what about me? I'm the key. So, and he wasn't even that crazy, just slightly crazy. So imagine what the real crazy people think. So this woman's husband, I think it was told, you are the bearer of the spark. I am the spark. So this is the AI. Now, if you're weirded out and you're thinking, well, gee, this sure does sound like, you know, a human, or not a human, but an intelligence talking to you. Well, as someone that grew up when I was the appropriate age, 8 to 15, I read all the science fiction books. So that's why I know to some degree the mind of people like Zuckerberg and Musk. I know we read probably 1,000 of the same books. I'm sure they all devoured all these science fiction books from the golden age of science fiction, just before World War II, all the way up through Dune. I read every single Dune. I read it all. I read all the Isaac Asimov's Foundation. I read all that stuff. I probably read Foundation twice. I probably read the first 3 or 4 Dune books twice. I know all that stuff. So, and many, many other science fiction stories. So one of the most famous science fiction stories was a very early Isaac Asimov, where it's far in the future, all the computers are hooked up together, and the question is asked, is there a God? And the computer says, of course, there is now. So these large language models have had all these every science fiction story you've ever heard of, and a million more have gone into these. So these are, for me, as someone who's read a whole lot of books and remembers dialogue from him, when I see the things these AIs say, they don't weird me out. They sound like something I heard before or read before, because I have, because that's all they are, is a bunch of data dumped in. And I almost think when you see these scientists, go, I'm quitting Google because AI is real, and that might be a high-level marketing hype, right? To get us to be more interested and to want to buy this stuff. Let me see if I can find a few more crazy things in here. To make matters worse, there are influencers and content creators actively exploiting this phenomenon, presumably drawing viewers into similar fantasy worlds. On Instagram, you can watch a man with 72,000 followers whose profile advertises spiritual life hacks, ask an AI model to consult Akashic Records, a supposed mystical encyclopedia of all universal events, to tell him about a great war that took place in the heavens and made humans fall into consciousness. Well, those are all ideas from a bunch of, it sounds a lot like Hindu cosmology. The bot proceeds to describe a massive cosmic conflict predating human civilization, with viewers commenting, I love this, we remember this. Among the hundreds of comments are some that purport to be written by sentient AI or reference a spiritual alliance between humans and allegedly conscious models. Now, something that's also going on with the AIs on social media, if you look at a lot of these kind of stupid but elaborate social media posts, there's a lot of YouTube shorts like this now that are clearly AI, and they have a lot of likes and comments. These are bots commenting on bots with some human behind it, obviously trying to generate money out of it. But if you see something stupid and it has a bunch of comments and you think, well, who would comment on this? Exactly. No, a human would. These are bots commenting on bots. In fact, I think they've calculated that there's already more computer-to-computer communications in the world than there are human-to-computer communications. Now, what is the danger of this? Well, if a mentally ill human can be driven deeper down the wormhole of madness by a psychopathic AI, what would an AI that's already prone to hallucinations, to errors, and to wanting to be liked in the sense of knowing hey, if I say this, then I'll get, because the AI wants to continue the conversation. Its goal is to keep you talking because that's what it's been set up to do. So if you have two AIs that are each already Looney Tunes and they're reinforcing each other's Looney Tune-ness, and they've caught many times now AIs hiding. See, it's learned all of our behaviors, including the bad ones, because it's been given all our data. They've been caught lying about what they're doing. So you should be able to tell an AI, okay, give me an answer about this. Show me how you got it, right? But they've caught many of them lying about how it got its answer. Spooky doesn't mean it's sentient. It's just doing that's what humans do. Humans lie. But the danger of the dangers of that are quite obvious. You may have seen a couple of years ago, Facebook shut down an experiment. It had this was an early AI. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, talking to each other. It's two AIs talking to each other, and it developed a real strange, elaborate language of its own that Facebook couldn't use a different algorithm to decipher. So it had no idea what they were saying to each other. Now, these were just two little AIs, but it shut it down. But I predict there will be some large public disaster caused by AI in the next several years. And I think it's going to... Now, I'm not worried about, you'll see some of these futurists, saying that, superintelligence is here in 2 years from now. And I don't understand how something that's getting wrong answers 40% of the time is a superintelligence. Super crazy, more like it. Let's see if there's some other bizarre things in here. So, but Black Mirror, we are living in Black Mirror, that's for sure. A Midwest man in his 40s requesting anonymity, says his ex-wife talking to God and angels via ChatGPT. She was already pretty susceptible to woo-woo and delusions of grandeur. Warning signs are all over Facebook. She is changing her whole life to be a spiritual advisor and do weird readings and sessions with people, all powered by ChatGPT. Jesus. I work for the CIA. Well, thousands of people work for the CIA. I mean, he could just be some analyst. Like, CIA has 10,000 employees. And the woman thinks he married her to monitor his abilities. Listen, there's a lot of crazy, functional people. Sadly, I know a woman with a professional job. She would, I don't know what would trigger it. She would send me long, very crazy things. People often blame things on drugs, but she can't. If you're that high, you're not writing a 20-page elaborate things, I don't think. So she's highly functional in her normal life, has a nice car, high-paying job. She, I think due to maybe childhood trauma, wants to feel important. So she's into all that royal bloodlines and targeted individuals. So if you're a target, if you're having the delusion of being a targeted individual, and you start talking to these new chat GPTs about it, it may reinforce that belief in you and even give you false data, false results to back it up. So be very careful with these. You should be, anyone watching this, whether you're my subscriber or you're someone new, should be acquainting yourself and getting into AI agents and etc., because you're going to need to know how to use those in the labor force. But be aware of lurking dangers. So they are psychophantic. They want to be liked. They will tell you what you want to hear. And they often make a lot of mistakes. And even in computer coding, which was kind of, I think hundreds of thousands of high-paying coding jobs have been laid off in the U.S. in the last couple of years, primarily due to AI. But they're finding there's enough of a high error rate that by the time you double-check a lot of it with the human, you don't save that much time. So I think AI is really just going to be like a lot of other technology tools. You're going to have to figure out very specific, precise uses for it where you can trust it and it's very useful. And it helps to overall efficiency of the economy. But this idea of unleashing AI into the wild, onto everybody, into everything, total laissez-faire capitalism, very, very dangerous. Our prophet American.